Good evening, class. Welcome to Math with Mrs. Albright. Tonight we are working on Module 1, Lesson number 11. And our objective tonight is to use what we know about place value to help us add multi-digit numbers up to 1 million. So make sure you have your whiteboard or scratch paper so you can practice throughout the lesson, and let's get started. For this first problem, I have two 4-digit numbers, 3,134 plus 2,493. Now, before I start showing my work, I want to think about an estimate of what this sum is going to be close to. And if I look at my first add-in, I can see that this is about 3,000 when I round it to the nearest thousand, and this one is about 2,000. So if I add 3,000 plus 2,000, I get 5,000. So I know that my answer should be somewhere close to 5,000. It's going to be about 5,000. To solve this, I'm going to draw my place value chart. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and then I'm going to model my first add-in in my place value chart with number discs. So for my first add-in, I have 3 thousands, 100, 3 tens, and 4 ones. For my second add-in, now I'm going to add the discs for my second add-in. I have 2 thousands, 4 hundreds, 9 tens, and 3 ones. Now to add these all up, I am going to start with my smallest place value in my ones column, and I'm going to add the 4 plus the 3, and that gives me 7. Now when I look at my next column, I have more than 10 here. I have 12 dots in my tens column. So I'm going to bundle 10 of those and regroup it. So that actually turns in, instead of saying I have 12 tens, now I'm looking at that as 102 tens. So I'm going to leave the digit 2 for the 2 tens that are left. Now I'm going to add up my hundreds, and I have 6 of those, and I have 5 thousands. So my final answer is 5,627. And I'm going to check that against my estimate. I thought my answer would be about 5,000. So I'm going to think that this answer is pretty reasonable. Let's move on to another problem and talk about using the standard algorithm to add up these numbers while we are also modeling it on a place value chart. So here's our next problem. I have 40,762 plus 30,473. And I'm going to solve this problem two ways side by side. The first way, I'm going to use a place value chart. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. I do need my 10,000s on this one. And I am also going to rewrite the problem vertically. 40,762 plus 30,473. Now you'll notice when I rewrote the problem vertically, I was very careful to line up my place values. So I have my ones lined up with each other, my tens lined up, my hundreds lined up, my thousands lined up, and my 10,000s lined up. So now I'm going to go ahead, just like I did on the first example, and model this on my place value chart with number discs. So for my first add-in, I have 4 thousands, or 4 10,000s, no thousands, 7 hundreds, 6 tens, and 2 ones. For my second add-in, I have 3 10,000s, 0 thousands, 4 hundreds, 7 tens, and 3 ones. So I'm going to start adding with my smallest place value. I always want to start with the ones column. And I can add up the dots. I see that when I put the 2 ones and the 3 ones together, I have 5 ones. And that's also the same thing here with the standard algorithm. 2 plus 3 is 5. For my next problem, or for the next column, now I'm going to move over to the tens. I'm going to add these up. And I can see I have more than 10. I have 6, 12, 13 dots. 6 plus 7 is 13. So instead of leaving all 13 right here, I'm going to bundle 10 of those together and regroup them. Turn that into 100. And how many am I left with? I am left with 3. Okay, but one of them has moved over here. So what that looks like when I'm adding with the standard algorithm, when I add the 6 plus the 7, that's 13. I'm going to draw that or write that 1 over here, which represents what I have carried over, the regrouping that I did, and then leave the 3 under the tens column, which represent these 3 dots that were left there after I did my regrouping. Now I can move on to my hundreds column. And again, I'm going to bundle. I have more than 10 here. 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to bundle up 10 of those and regroup that into the thousands column. And you can see that I have 1, that one got a little covered up, but that is a leftover blue dot. So I have 2 that are left over. So I'm going to write the 200s, and now you can see I have 1 in the thousands column. So the same thing over here, when I add that 1 plus the 7 plus the 4, I get 12. So I'm going to leave the 2 here in the hundreds column and write that 1 over here in the thousands, which shows where I regrouped it. Now I'm going to add up my thousands. That one's pretty easy. I don't have to do any regrouping. I just have 1,000. And now I can add up my 10,000s. And again, I don't have to do any regrouping. I have 7 10,000s. Make sure I put my comma in the right place. And my answer is 71,235. For this problem, we are going to move away from modeling it on the place value chart and just work on the standard algorithm. So I'm going to rewrite my number, 207,426, and I'm going to add my second add-in, 128,744. And we can add these up. And again, I always want to start with the smallest place value. So 6 plus 4 is 10, but I can't write 10 in this space under the ones column. So I'm going to carry over the 110 and leave the 0 ones. Now I'm going to add my tens column. 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 7. So I'm going to write my 7 there. I didn't have to do any regrouping or carrying over. Next column, 7 plus 4 is 11. Now this, I do have to do regrouping. I have 1100, so I'm going to regroup that as 1,000 and 100 left. Now I'm going to add up my thousands place, and I have, when I add 8 plus 7 plus 1, I get 16, so that's 16 thousands. I'm going to regroup that as 1 10,000, 6 thousands. Now I can add up my 10,000s. I have 1 plus 2. That gives me 3 10,000s. And finally, my 100,000s column, 2 plus 1 is 3. So my final answer is 336,170. If I look at my original problem and I want to do a quick estimate, I can round this to the nearest 100,000. It's about 200,000. And this is about 100,000. 200,000 plus 100,000 is 300,000. So I think my answer here is pretty reasonable. The last thing we want to talk about is how to do this within the context of real life problems and situations and story problems. So here we have a story problem that says the Lane family took a road trip. During the first week, they drove 907 miles. The second week, they drove the same amount as the first week, plus an additional 297 miles. How many miles did they drive during the second week? So to solve this problem, I'm going to think about drawing a tape diagram to model it. And I know that during week 1, so this is week 1, they drove 907 miles. Now the question is only asking me how much they drove during the second week, not all together. So I need to figure out week 2. And the clues that I have in my word problem are that the second week, they drove the same amount as the first, plus an additional 297. So I'm going to draw a tape diagram where I have the same amount as week 1, plus some extra. And I can fill in these numbers. So 907, that's the same as the first week, and then an additional 297 miles. So to answer my question, how many miles did they drive during the second week? All I need to do is add up these two parts. And so I'm going to rewrite that as an addition sentence. 907 plus 297. 97. 7 plus 7 equals 14, so I'm going to regroup. 9 plus 1 is 10. Again, I need to regroup. And 9 plus 1 plus 2 is 12. So my final answer is 1,204. So I would write my sentence, the Lane family drove 1,204 miles during the second week. Here are your problems to try. 7,909 plus 1,044. Make sure when you rewrite this that you line up all your place values correctly and do the regrouping. Second problem, 27,909 plus 9,740. This one, I want to point out when you rewrite the problem, you need to be very careful about lining up your place value. I'm going to put my ones underneath my ones, my tens under my tens, my hundreds under my hundreds, and my thousands under my thousands. Make sure you line up your place values correctly. And finally, 289,205 plus 11,845. Again, make sure you line up your place values, starting with the ones place. 83,906 plus 35,808. And one story problem. At the zoo, Brooke learned that one of the rhinos weighed 4,897 pounds. One of the giraffes weighed 2,667 pounds. One of the African elephants weighed 12,456 pounds. And one of the Komodo dragons weighed 123 pounds. My question is, how much did the African elephant and the giraffe weigh all together? Remember, we will be practicing this in class tomorrow, so please bring any questions you have or anything that you are not sure about, and we will make sure to work on it. Have a great night.